Welcome to this TypeScript crash course. Whether you are a beginner or a JavaScript, React or Next.js developer, this course will help you learn TypeScript from the ground up. TypeScript makes your JavaScript code safer and easier to manage by adding types. Here is what we will cover. First, we will walk you through installing TypeScript on Windows, macOS and Linux. Then we will explain what TypeScript is and why it is so useful. Once TypeScript is set up, we will show you how to configure VS Code for a smoother coding experience. After that, we dive into the key features of TypeScript, such as the basic data types like string, numbers, and booleans, as well as more advanced ones like arrays and tuples. Then you will know how to work with functions, including return types, and explore other important concepts like interfaces, enums, and type aliases. We will also cover more advanced topics like combining different types using a union and intersection types. Then you will know how to use optional types, handle a null and undefined, and apply the read-only keyword. By the end of the course, you will have a strong understanding of TypeScript and how to use it in your projects. Let's get started and take your coding to the next level. Now let's see how to install TypeScript globally on Windows, macOS and Linux. Before installing TypeScript, you need to install Node.js. So go to Node.js website, nodejs.org. Then click on this download button. And after that, on this page, you will see the Node.js version and the operating system. Choose the operating system and install the Node.js. Then you will be able to use the npm to install the TypeScript. So first, I'm going to show you on Windows how you can install the TypeScript. For that, open the command prompt, type cmd, and then within this command prompt, first check the Node.js version by typing node-v. And as you can see, the version of the Node.js is a 20. Now, to install the TypeScript globally, you need to type a command npm install, then -g, then specify TypeScript. So this command will install the TypeScript on your Windows globally, which means you can use the TypeScript anywhere. Hit enter and look, it shows the message added one package in 3 seconds. So this means we have successfully installed the TypeScript. To verify it, you need to execute command tsc-v and then execute this. You can see the version of TypeScript is a 5.6.3. So we have successfully installed the TypeScript on Windows. Now let's see how to install it on macOS. On macOS, open terminal, and within terminal, first we need to check whether we have installed the Node.js or not. So type the command node-v, and as you can see, the Node.js version is 20.18. Now to install the TypeScript on macOS, specify command npm install -g, then TypeScript like this. Hit enter, and as you can see, it installed the TypeScript on a macOS. To verify it, specify command or execute the command tsc-v. And as you can see, the version of TypeScript is a 5.6.3. This is how you can install the TypeScript on macOS. And remember, before installing TypeScript, make sure you have installed the Node.js or npm on your macOS system. Here I'm using Linux system named Ubuntu. So first thing, check the Node.js version by specifying node-v, and then you can see Node.js version is 20.18. Now to install TypeScript, specify npm install -g, then TypeScript, and hit enter. As you can see, it shows message added one package. This means TypeScript is installed successfully. To verify it, execute the command tsc-v, and you can see version equal to 5.6.3, which means TypeScript is installed successfully with version 5.6.3. Let's understand what is a TypeScript. TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, meaning it builds on top of JavaScript by adding additional features, especially static typing. It was developed by Microsoft to address some of the limitations of JavaScript, particularly in large-scale applications where managing types can become complex. But why is it called TypeScript? The key feature of TypeScript is its type system. Hence the name TypeScript. It adds a layer of static types to a JavaScript, which helps developer catch potential error at compile time rather than runtime. This improves code quality and reduces bugs. So what is a type system? A type system is a way of defining the types like a string, number, boolean of a variable's function parameter and return values in your code, which means if you have variable and function with parameter, and if the function return values, then you can specify the type of variable, type of the function parameters, and what kind of the function is going to return the data. So TypeScript type system helps developer enforce certain rules about how values are used, ensuring that values flow through the application correctly. Now let's understand with an example how TypeScript works. I have opened Visual Studio Code, and as you can see, I have created two folders, JavaScript and TypeScript. So here I'm going to show you both the code JavaScript and TypeScript so that you can understand it properly. So here in this JavaScript folder, create a new file and give any name. In my case, I'm going to give name java.js, and then within a TypeScript, create a new file. I'm going to give name type.ts. Remember, the extension of Java is java.js and the extension of TypeScript is a .ts. So before proceeding, let's install the extension. So here TypeScript, and you will see this extension JavaScript and TypeScript nightly. Install this extension. After installing, let's open this file java.js and type.ts side by side. Click on this icon and remove this one from here. So here at this side I will write the JavaScript code, and this side or in this file I'm going to write the TypeScript code. So first let's write a JavaScript program and understand why we need to use this TypeScript. So I'm going to define a variable message, and it is going to store the string hello pop. Then next to it I'm going to print console.log message like this. Now open the terminal, and within terminal move to this folder JavaScript. So type here cd JavaScript. Then from here let's execute this JavaScript file. So specify here node, then java.js, and execute this. You can see in the terminal it returns hello Bob, and this is the string stored in the variable message. Now what happens if I redeclare here a message and assign a new value, and this value will be integer value like a 12. And now again execute this, type here node java.js. Look, you can see the message value changed to 12 integer, and you can see now the type of this message value is integer type. So it changed from string to integer, and you can see you can easily change this type to another type like a specify here message and say here 12.5. Now it will change the type to float. Let's execute this node java.js, execute this, and now you can see. So there is no type checking in JavaScript. So you can pass any kind of data to this message variable, or you can store any kind of data. And this is not good in programming. If you have declared a variable message to store the string, so throughout the program this variable message must contain only a string. It can't contain any kind of data, otherwise it is going to raise an error, and that will be not good for the program. So for that, here we can use the TypeScript. So what happens in TypeScript, if we say here let message then equal to here and say hello Bob. So next to it I'm going to call here console.log, and then I will print here message like this. And then I'm going to open one more terminal, and this will execute the TypeScript code. So here cd TypeScript, and then here you need to remember the command tsc, and this is the compiler of TypeScript, and this compiler convert this TypeScript file type.ts to java.ts. So whenever you execute a TypeScript, behind the scene your TypeScript file is converted into a JavaScript file, and then that file can be run anywhere where JavaScript can run. So here specify the command tsc, and then specify the name of the file. So here name of the file is type.ts, and then hit enter, and you can see here in the TypeScript folder we have a new file type.js. So again remember, TypeScript convert your TypeScript file into a type.js or into a JavaScript file. And now here you can run your, and now let's run the JavaScript file node then type.js and execute this, we get the hello Bob. And now let's assign here another value to this. So type here message equal to, and here assign string 34. And now let's again execute. So type here tsc, then the TypeScript file type.ts, execute this. And this time you can see it shows error, type number is not assignable type string. So in a TypeScript, whenever you assign an initial value to this variable, that value type will be considered throughout the program. Which means if you have assigned a string to this message variable, then later in the program, this message variable will only store the string. So this is very different from JavaScript. You can see here in JavaScript, we can store or change the value of the message to different data type. So TypeScript allow a type checking. So when you assign a value to a variable, TypeScript checks its type. So in this case, when you assign 34 to this message variable, TypeScript check this message variable must contain string value. But here we have assigned 34, so that is not valid. So we get this error here. Now I think that you understand how to create TypeScript file and write a code. And there is a little difference between JavaScript and TypeScript and how it works, and also how to execute a TypeScript file. But here you can see for each changes, we need to execute this command tsc again and again. So let's configure our Visual Studio Code to execute this command automatically whenever we click on this run button. Before that, go here in the extension and install this extension code runner that you see here. After installing this extension, go to the setting, and here within setting, type code runner, then executor map, and open the setting, and then just scroll down, and here at the bottom add this line. And what it does, it automatically execute those commands that we have executed here in the terminal to run the TypeScript file. So make sure to write all these lines. Now after this, close this one, and whenever you click on this button, it is going to execute this TypeScript file automatically for you. You don't need to type the command again and again. Now let's go to File Explorer and open the JS file. And let's open it side by side, change the position. So here you can see we get the error. So what we will do here, I'm going to delete this folder or move this file outside of this TypeScript folder. Here, move here, and also this JavaScript file. And let's delete this folder. And now at this point you understand what is this type.js and what is this type.ts and what is this java.js. Here I want to mention one thing. TypeScript knows the JavaScript language and will generate types for you in many cases. For example, you can see here we have created a message variable and assigned a particular value, which is a string in this case. So here TypeScript will use the value as its type, which means now the message will only contain the string value. It is not going to contain other kind of value like integer, Boolean. So if we try to assign here a integer and execute this, you can see here it raises error, type number is not assignable type to string. But it is happening behind the scene. In TypeScript, we can specify the type of this variable explicitly, which means we can specify while declaring this variable. And let me show how we can do that. And for that, you're going to follow this syntax, and just after the name of the variable, specify colon, and then after this, you need to specify the data type. So TypeScript has several primitive data types, and that we will learn one by one. First is the string, so specify here string like this. And now here we have explicitly specified that this message is going to contain only the string value. If you assign any kind of value, then that is not good, and then it is going to raise error. So here, if we hover here, you can see it shows type number is not assignable to type string. So here we are trying to assign an integer. Let's remove it. And now let's assign another value here, and we will call it hello James. And for the moment, ignore this error when we hover this, and let's execute this. And after execution, you can see it prints hello James. let's declare one more variables, let, and here I'm going to say price. And price can be of type float. So specify here number like this, and then equal to 14.5. Print the value console.log, then price. Similarly, we have another primitive type called Boolean type, and we can say here variable active, and let's assign a Boolean type here like this, and here I'm going to assign value as a true, and let's print console.log active. And here you can see we have the primitive type or data type in TypeScript, string, number, and Boolean. And remember, if you try to assign any kind of data value, then it is going to raise error. For example, if you specify here price equal to then any string value and hover on this variable, in TypeScript you can see it shows type string is not assignable to type number, which means you can't assign a string to this price because here we have defined the data type of this variable as a number. Now apart from this, we have another data type called array, and as you know, array store a list of values. So in TypeScript you can work with arrays of values, and there are two ways to define the arrays in TypeScript. Let me show you. First, specify here variable name list and then colon, and after this you need to specify the data type of the list or the array. So it is a number, and then it is array, so specify here square bracket. And now after this specify equal, and then within the square bracket specify the list of values that you want to store in the array list. So here I'm going to store a series of number 1, 2, and 3. This is the first way to define the arrays in TypeScript. Now let's see another way. And the second way is to use a generic array type. That means specify here let list and then colon, and then specify here array like this. Then here specify less than, and within this specify the type that you want to store in the list. So in this case, I'm going to store the number and close this. And after this specify equal, and then within a square bracket, you can specify 1, 2, 3. Let's change this name to list2 like this. So this is the first way to create an array in TypeScript, and this is the second way. And here specify array, and then within this specify the type of the value that you want to store in the array, like string, boolean, number. And let's print this. Type here console.log list, and then next to it console.log list2. Now next we have a tuple types that allows you to express an array with a fixed number of elements whose type are known but need not to be the same. For example, you can create here a tuple like a let x, and then within a square bracket specify first type is a string and second type is a number. And then after this you can initialize or give a value to this x tuple within a square bracket like a hello, and then second is the number, specify number as a 10. And this is the correct way to create a tuple, because you can see here in a type the first value should be string and the second value should be number. And remember the order. What happens if we change the order? So here let's again give a value to this x value, and this time change the order. First value is a integer and second value is a string like a hello. And look, you can see here it shows error, and hover on this you can see it says type string is not assignable to type number. So you can see here we need to specify here number, but we have specified here string. And here we can also see it is saying type number is not assignable to type string. This means here the first parameter or the first value should be a string, but here we have assigned an integer. So here order matters. And remember, this is the syntax to create a tuple in TypeScript. Let's create one more tuple in TypeScript. So here specify let y, then colon, and after this square bracket, and here I'm going to store a 3 different values. First value will be a string, and second will be boolean, and third will be number. And then let's initialize the value here. First is the string, so specify here like a hello, and second is the boolean, specify here true, and third is the number, specify number like 34. And if you try to change the order of these values, it is going to raise an error. For example, specify here y, and here assign a first value as an integer, second value as a string, and third value as a Boolean value like a false. And when you hover this, you can see it shows type number is not assignable to type string, because the first value in this tuple must be a string. And I hope that you understand how to define tuple in TypeScript. Here you can see I have written this command to print the values of this variable, but I am not executing. At this point, just understand this command is going to execute exact value whatever is stored in this variable. Now moving next, let's see how function is implemented in TypeScript. But before that, let's see how the function works in the JavaScript. So here, let's create a function that greet a user by name. Specify function keyword to create the function, then name of the function, which is greet. And this function accepts a parameter name. After this function is going to return hello, and then here insert the value of the name parameter like this, and then exclamation mark. And now here specify console.log, and within this call the function greet, and to this function pass the argument string, which is a Bob in this case. Comment out these lines and execute this. You can see it prints hello Bob, and we have defined this function to print the greeting, and this greeting is a string. But what happens if you pass here integer value? Execute this, and you can see here it accepts integer value also. So in JavaScript there is no type checking, you can pass any type of argument. So if you pass here true value and execute this, you can see here this time it returns hello true. And this is not good, because here it is not making any sense, because here we have defined function greet, and which accept the parameter value should be a string type, and that should be a name of any person. But here we are passing any kind of data. How we are going to solve? We can solve it using a TypeScript. What happens here, TypeScript allows us to specify the type of the parameter we want to accept. So here I'm going to copy this function and also comment out this and paste here. And before this, let's comment out these lines. Now in TypeScript, when you hover on this parameter, you can see it says name implicitly has any type, but better a type may be inferred from users, which means this time this name parameter has any type, which means you can pass here any of the value and this function will store. But you can specify the type explicitly, like you have specified for these variables, like an array number. So after the parameter, specify colon and then type of the parameter. So here type is a string. And now you can see this line is showing error, and when you hover on this, you can see it says argument type Boolean is not assignable to parameter of type string. That means you can't pass a Boolean value, because here the type of the name is a string. So let's change this to string James, and now you can see error disappear. Let's execute this. You can see here function is working fine. Let's try to pass a different argument, like here pass the integer value 12, and look, it shows error, argument type number is not assignable to parameter of type string. So this is how TypeScript allows type checking of the parameter in the function. So here we have added a type annotation, name is of type string, but we can also specify the function return type. You can see here this function return a string value. You can explicitly specify the return type of function by specify the colon after this closing parenthesis and then specify the return type. So here the return type is a string, which means this function can only return the string value. If you return the value which is not a string, then this function will raise error. For example, if you remove this string from the return and specify here 12, and you can see here type number is not assignable to type string. And let's execute this, scroll down, you can see we get the error type number is not assignable to type string. So here let's change this to pop, and now instead of this integer value, let's return the string. So here specify hello, then dollar symbol, then the curly braces, and specify the parameter. Now run this code and you can see it is working fine. So this is how you can specify the type of the parameter and the return type of the function. Remember, you can specify here any type, like a number, like a Boolean, or any kind of a data type that function is going to return. Now next, let's understand a special types in TypeScript. We have learned about a different kind of a data type like a string, number, Boolean, array, tuples. But TypeScript has a special type called any type, and this any type disable the type checking and effectively allows all types to be used, which means this type represent all the data type that we have learned. For example, here I am going to declare variable h and I will assign a value true. Whenever we don't specify data type like this, then this means the type of this variable, then type of the variable will be decided based on the value that we assign, which means h has a Boolean type. So after this, if we try to assign a string value to this h and hover on the h, you can see type string is not assignable to type Boolean. So this is how TypeScript implicitly assigns a data type to the variable based on its value. If you want to make it any type, you just need to assign a special type like a any. Specify this any data type, and now you can see error disappeared. Now it is going to work fine. So let's print the value of the h on the console. First, comment out these lines, and now click on this run button and scroll down. Look, we get the value James. So any type means all types. And remember, whenever we do not specify the type of the variable type will be defined or will be inferred based on its value. Moving next, let's see how to work with objects in TypeScript. And before showing how objects work in TypeScript, I want to show how objects work in the JavaScript. So here, first I'm going to create a function process user which will process the object. So specify function keyword and then the function name process user. And this function will accept the user object, and then it is going to return the name of the user and the age of the user. Here I'm going to use the template string. So specify here backtick, then here specify string user, then dollar symbol and curly braces, and here I want to insert the property user.name, and I have not created user, but I will create it. Then after this I'm gonna specify here age, then dollar, then curly braces, and here user.age. And remember, this method is called template string. Using a template string, we can insert the variables or the expression within a string. Now outside the function, I'm going to create a new object, and that object is a user. And you know, object is a collection of key value pair. So it is equal to, then within a curly braces, you can specify any number of key value pair. So here I will use two key value pair, name and age. So first is the name, which is Bob, and second is the age, and age is 30. And remember, this name and age is also called the properties of the user object. So next, let's pass this object to the process user function. Specify here console.log, then call the function process user, and to this function pass this user object like this, and execute this, and you can see it prints the user Bob and age is 30. And as you know, in JavaScript you can modify the object properties. For example, here you can specify user.age equal to 40, and this line will update the age property to the value 40. So if you run on click button again and execute this, you can see age is updated to 40. Okay, here I'm going to create one more object, and the object name is a invalid user like this. And then this object will contain only a single property name, and the name is James. And remember, here I'm not providing this second property called age. And let's see how this function works with when we don't provide any of the properties that we have used here in the function. So here I'm going to call console.log and then call the process user function, and to this function pass the invalid user object. And after this, comment out this line and then execute this. And you can see in the output, username is James and age is undefined. So this function, the process user, expects a user object with a name and age. But here JavaScript does not enforce object structure, which means you can see here the structure of the object. It only contains a single property. We have not provided this second property. So missing properties can lead to unexpected result. You can see the age is undefined, which means this property is missing when we pass this invalid user object, and that can lead to unexpected error or results in a future. But there is one more problem with the JavaScript object property. As you know, we can update the properties of object. So here I'm going to specify user.age, and this time, age must be integer. But here I'm going to assign a string value like any random string. And now specify here console.log, then call the process user function, and to this function pass the user object. Comment out this line, and now let's execute this. You can see the age must be an integer, but here it updates to string, and this is the second problem with the object. And similarly, there are many more problems. And how we can resolve all this problem? You can resolve all this problem using the TypeScript. Let me show you how you can do that. So here I'm going to copy all this code from here and paste it to TypeScript file. Also comment out this line in this JavaScript file, and now come back to this TypeScript file. So first thing, here I want to tell you the concept called interface. So what it does, it allows you to create a structure for the object where you will have all the properties that you define within the object. For example, to create a interface, specify the keyword interface, and after this keyword specify the name of the interface, and in this case the interface name should match with the object name. So here we have created object user, so interface name will be user, and after the name specify the curly braces, and within the curly braces you can specify all the properties that object will have. So here in this case, this user object has a properties name and age, so specify here name, and also you can specify the type of this name property, and the type is a string, so specify data type as a string. Then we have second property called age, and age type is a number. Now we have created interface, and this interface is a structure for this object we have created. And if we remember, when we created a function above, and you can see this function accepts a name property of type string, but in JavaScript we have not specified any type here. So in TypeScript you can pass this interface as a type to this user parameter like this. And now whenever you pass the object to this process user function, that object must have the structure or the properties defined within this user. So here we have created a user object, and object has two properties, name and age. Let's call here process user function, and to this function pass the user object that we have created. And now let's try to execute this. Scroll down, you can see it is working fine. Username is James and age is 30. And in the JavaScript, when we created this invalid user, we have not provided this second property age, and when we pass this invalid user to this process user function, it was working fine without the age property. But it is not going to happen with the TypeScript. Let's see. So here create a object invalid user, and it is going to contain only one property, which is a name, and name is James. And now let's try to pass this invalid user to this process user function, and you can see when you hover on it, and you can see it is saying property age is missing in type but required in the type user. So here it is saying we have created invalid user and only provided a name property, but it also required to add a age property, otherwise it is going to show error. So let's try to execute this line and scroll down. You can see it is showing age is missing. So to resolve this error, it is necessary to pass the second property, which is age in this case, and age is 30. And now let's run this again. Scroll down, you can see it is working fine. And second problem was we updated the age from integer to string, you can see here. Let's try to do the same thing. So here we have created the user object. So specify here user.age and try to assign a string value. And look, immediately it shows the error. Hover on it and you can see it says type string is not assignable to type number. So this is how TypeScript solve this kind of object problem, and it can solve all kind of object problem related to the type. And one thing I want to say here again, to define the structure for the object, specify the keyword interface and then name of the object, and within curly braces you can specify the number of the properties the object is going to have. Okay, next let's understand another type called enum types. And if you want to know what is enums, then you must know what is a constant. So let's come to this JavaScript file and understand what is a constant. And if you are here JavaScript developer, then you already know about constant, but if you are not, don't worry. So constant variables has a value, and that value cannot be modified again, or you cannot reassign a new value to that constant. And to create a constant in JavaScript, you need to specify keyword const and then the name of the variable. So here I'm going to give a variable name as a north, and I will assign value 1. As I told you, you can't reassign a new value to this north. So here let's try to reassign a new value like a 3. And here on the console, let's print the value of a north constant and execute this. When you execute this, you can see here it shows type error. And the error is assignment to constant variable, which means you cannot assign a new value after assigning a initial value to this north variable. So whenever you want to create a variable with a fixed value in JavaScript, we use the keyword const. And now we can create a related constant, like we can create another constant named waste and assign value 2. Then create one more, name it south, assign value 3. And create one more const variable named east and assign value 4. And as you can see, these constants are related because these are the direction north, west, south, east. So in JavaScript, we can group this constant using the object. So here create a object. First use the keyword const and then specify the name of the object like a direction. Then here specify the direction north, then value would be 1, and west, and the value is 2, then south, value is 3, and lastly east, value is a 4. So here we group the constant north, west, south, east in the object direction. Let's comment out these, and we can access the value of each of the property or each of the direction that we have defined within this direction object. So for that, here you can specify the object direction.north and execute this. Scroll down, you can see the value of north is 1. So similarly, enums in TypeScript allows us to define a group of related constant with a meaningful names. So to create a enums in TypeScript, we will use the keyword enum and then specify the name of the enum. And remember, enums can be string or numeric. So here let's define a constant values within this direction enum. And first constant is a north with value of 1. So here we are not going to specify the value like here we have specified in the object, and I will tell you later why. Now after this, specify second, which is the east, and then third, which is south, and lastly west. Let's comment out these, also this one. And here we have not assigned any initial value to this direction, like here we have assigned to this direction object 1, 2, 3. So whenever we create a enum in TypeScript, it automatically behind the scene assign a numeric value to each of the defined constant, which means this north will have the value 0, east will have the value 1, south will have the value 2, and west will have the value 3. If you are not sure, let's use this enum. So to use the enum, here specify console.log, then specify direction.north and execute this. Scroll down, go up. Here let's comment out these lines because this line raising an error. So comment out these, then scroll down and run the again, and look, the value of north is 0. Let's here specify the east, which is the second constant. So it is east, and execute again. You can see the value of east is 1. Similarly, if you specify here south and execute this, you can see the value of south is 2. But here you can see by default north has a value of 0, east has a value of 1. And here we want to assign a north with value equal to 1 and east 2, south 3 and west 4. So how we can do with the enums? And we can do that enum using the assignment operator. We can go here and specify equal and say 1. And now what it does, whenever you try to print the value of north, it is going to print the value of north equal to 1, east equal to 2, south equal to 3 and west equal to 4. Let's see here. So specify north and execute this. Scroll down, you can see the value of north is 1. Let's change this to east. Execute this again. Scroll down, you can see the value of east is 2, and so on for the south and west. This is how you can create a enum in TypeScript, and you can give your own value to each constant within the enum. And as I told you here, enum can have two kind of value, string or numeric. So we saw how to define or give a numeric value to the constant. Let's see how to assign a string value. So here I am going to create a new enum. So specify keyword enum, and the enum name is a color. And then this enum is going to have a 3 constant. First is red, second is a green, and third is a blue. As I told you, by default TypeScript will assign a numeric value to this constant red green value, and the numeric value will be 1 for the red, 2 for the green and 3 for the blue. But here we want to assign a string. So for that, specify here equal, then assign a string value like a red. Then again here specify equal, assign a string value green. Similarly, assign a value blue. This is how you can create a enum with a string values. Let's access the value of each of the constant. Console.log, then color.blue, and execute this. Scroll down, you can see we get the string value blue. Similarly, if we specify here green and execute this, you can see it shows the green value. So this is how you can create a enum in TypeScript with a string and numeric values. But here is a question, why use enums? So enum, you can use the enum for the better readability. Here, instead of using a raw numbers or a string in your code, enums make it clear what those values represent. So you can see here the values red, green, blue represent the color, and here you can see direction, or these values north, east, south, west represent the enum's direction. This is why enum is a very useful, and it also avoids mistakes like a typos in a string. With enums, you are restricted to using the defined values only. So this is all about enums in TypeScript. After understanding enums, let's understand type aliases. So what is a type aliases? Type aliases can be used to give a name to primitive types like a string, number, Boolean, array and tuple. This can be useful when you want to use a meaningful names to represent simple values. So let's take example and understand these type aliases. Here I am going to create a variable username, and the type of the variable is string, and store the value like a James. You can see here the variable username has a type string. So here we want to keep the type of this username as string, but here we want to change the primitive name string to different name. or here we want to assign a different name to this string. So for that we can use here type aliases, and to create a type aliases we need to use the type keyword, and after this we can specify alternate name for the primitive types like a string, boolean, number. So here we need to give a name to this string. We will specify here user name like this, and then equal to string. So what this line means we have assigned a new names to this string as a username. So again we have assigned a new name, username, to this string name, and as you know this string is a primitive types or inbuilt data type in a TypeScript. So instead of string here we can specify here user name, make it small letter, and also change this one. And now let's print console.log username, and before printing let's comment out these lines. And now click on this run button, scroll down, you can see it print James. Or we can specify different alias name to this string data type. We can say here str data like this, make it a capital like this, and then change this to str data. Similarly, if you are going to create one more variable and the variable name is the name and we want to keep the type as a string, we can specify here str data type and assign a name like a Bob. And after this we can print console.log, then specify the variable name and execute this. So here it is saying cannot redeclare block scope variable name. Change this to different like a my name, and also change this, execute again, look, it print Bob. So this is how you can give the alias name to the primitive type. So let's create one more. Here I am going to create an alias name, and here I will say float, and then I'm going to assign number primitive types, and then let price, and the type of the price is float, and assign a float value like a 24.5, console.log, then print price, execute this, and you can see it is working fine. So you can use the type keyword and then the alternate name to give a different or alias name to the existing primitive types. Here you can use a Boolean tuple array. So you can change the name of the primitive types. Now in type aliases, next term is a union type alias. So what is union type alias? Union type allows a value to be one of several types. Type aliases are particularly useful here because you can define a union type once and reuse it throughout your code. For example, here I am going to create a type aliases ID, and this aliases can have several types. First, it can be a number, and then specify union types, and it can also be a string. So here you can see this ID is a type alias that can either be a number or a string. You can specify any number of a type here by using this union types or by using this pipe operator. So here ID can be number, string. You can create a variable let employee ID of type ID. Then you can assign here integer like a 101. Also you can assign a value like AB123. So here we have created a type alias ID that can be a number or a string. You can see here we have assigned both number and string. So using this you can make it a flexible when you want to allow multiple types. Similarly, you can also use a type aliases to define arrays of any type. Let's see with an example. Here specify keyword type, and here I am going to create a string array which is equal to string array type. So here string array is an aliases for an array of strings. Create one more aliases. So here it is a number array equal to array, then specify type as a number. Here number array is an alias for an array of numbers. Let's create a variable names and the type is string array, which is equal to a square bracket, and here within a square bracket we can specify array of a string like a James, then second is Bob, and third is Rock. Similarly, we can create a scores, and the type of a score is number array equal to, we can specify multiple number of integer here like a 90, 85 and 95. So this is how you can specify type aliases to define array of a different type. That you can see here, we have here only define two kinds of arrays, string and number. Next, you can also use a type aliases to define complex object structure. For example, create a type aliases user, and this user will have a properties name of type string, age of type number, and then each admin type Boolean. This is the type aliases user with the three properties name, age and is admin. Here let's create an object admin user, and the type is a user type equal to, and here assign a value, name as a James and age as a 30, and then is admin, which is equal to true. So here you can see we have a type aliases user for an object admin user, and this type aliases has a property name, age, each admin. So this make it easy to create and work with objects that have the same structure throughout your code. Remember, to create a type aliases for object, use this syntax. After this, type aliases can also define the structure of function specifying input types and return types. So here specify type aliases greet, and this greet is a function, so it is going to accept a parameter name of type string, and this function will only return the string value, so specify type as a string. And this is the syntax to define a type aliases for the structure of the function, and remember this. Also here you can specify the number of parameter your function will accept. So here we are only accepting a one parameter name, and next let's create a function greet user, and the type is a greet type that we have defined here. Now next, this function will accept a parameter name of type string, so specify name colon string, then arrow, and within the curly braces specify return keyword, and this function can only return the string, so specify here hello, then after this dollar symbol curly braces, and within curly braces specify the variable or parameter. And now console.log, call the function greet user, and to this function pass the string value, in this case it is a James. And before running all this code, let's go up and comment out these lines, also this one and this one too. Now execute this, scroll down, we see nothing here. Let's execute one more time, and now you can see it prints hello James. So this is how you can give a type aliases to the function and use that type aliases anywhere in your code. Now you can also define a type aliases for tuple. So here specify type, then it is a point, and this is equal to number and number. And if you remember, we can create a tuple using this syntax. Let's create a variable coordinate of type point, and then assign a 2-point value. First is the 10 and second is the 20. So here you can see we have used the type aliases point that we have defined here. This is how we can define type aliases for a tuple. Moving next, let's understand how to use type aliases to combine multiple types into one using a intersection types. So here I'm going to create a type has name, and this is going to have a single property name of type string. Create one more type aliases has age, and this is also going to contain a single property age of type number. So here you can combine both these type aliases into a single. For that, specify here type and specify name as a person, then equal to specify as name, and here to combine multiple type aliases specify the AND operator, and after this specify the second type alias that you want to combine, and in this case it is has age. So here we have created another type alias as person, and this person has both type aliases, has name and has age. Let's see how to use this. Here create a object person, and object type is a person type alias, then equal to, and you can access both the properties name, and name is a rock here, and second is the age, and here age is a 30. Similarly, you can create here one more type alias, and you can say has job like this equal to, and then it is also going to have a single properties job title of type string. And if you want to combine this has job with this person, just use here AND operator and specify the third type alias, which is a has job. And now this person can access job title also. You can see here, and you can say here engineer like this. So this is how you can combine multiple type aliases into one type alias. So I hope that you understand what is a type alias and how to create multiple types of a type alias. Now after understanding type aliases, let's understand more about interfaces. So here we will learn how to extend interfaces. Now as you know, interfaces in TypeScript define the shape or structure of an object. They are particularly useful when working with object classes because they focus on defining the properties and methods that an object should have. So here I'm going to create an interface, and interface is a user interface, and this user interface will have some properties like a name of type string, age of type number, and then this interface also have a function greet, and the type is a string. So here let's create a object let user and annotate it with the interface user like this, then equal to, and within here you will be able to access all the properties or method that we have defined within this user interface. Like if we specify n, we can see it is showing the name property, and if we remove this interface from here, we will not able to access those property. Like if I type here name, you can see it is not showing any kind of properties. So annotate it with the interface user like this, and then specify here name, and the name is Bob. Now after this specify the age, and age is a 35, then define the greet function. So this is the greet function, and it is going to return a string as we have specified in the interface. String will be hello, then my name is dollar symbol curly braces, and insert the this dot name value like this. Now next to it we are going to print console.log, call the user.greet function to print the name of the person. First let's go up and comment out these lines, and now execute this. Scroll down, we can see it prints hello, my name is Bob. So here you can see we have created an interface user. We can also extend this user interface to another interface, and let me show you how we can do that. So here simply specify keyword interface, and then specify the name of the another interface. So in this case it is the employee interface. Then to include all these properties or method within this interface, just specify here keyword extends, and then specify the interface whose properties or method you want to include. After this specify curly braces. Now this lines means this employee interface is going to have all the properties like a name, age, and methods like a greet within this employee. So this employee can access all these properties and method. And now within this, you can also specify a new properties or method for this employee interface. So for example, here I'm going to add another property, job title, and the type of the job title is a string. Now instead of user here, we can specify interface like a employee. And now as you can see, it shows error because here one of the property is missing, which is the job title. So here we will specify job title, and job title is a software engineer, like this. Specify the comma, and now you can see this user object has a properties from the user interface and the employee interface. So here you learn how to inherit all the properties or methods from other interface into the new interface using this extends keyword. Okay, you know interfaces, and now you have created here a user object which contains the properties name, a job title, and function greet. In TypeScript, you can update the properties values, like here we have specified Bob and age is 35 and job title software engineer. We can update this value. Let me show you how we can do that. So here specify the object name, then dot, and then you can see we have the properties age, job title, name, and the function greet. As you can see, the current value of the age is 35, and now we want to update this age to 50. So here specify the property name, then equal to specify new value 50. Cut this one and paste here, and remove this greet function, and then specify here age. And now execute this. You can see age is updated to 50. Similarly, you can update the name of the person. So specify here object, then property whose value you want to update. In this case, it is a name. Then I want to update the name to James. And now instead of age, we are going to print the name. Execute this. You can see we updated the name to James. So sometimes you don't want to update all this property. You want to keep the name of the user consistent throughout the program. So how we can stop someone from updating the properties values? And for that, TypeScript has a special keyword called read-only keyword. And this keyword only allows us to read the values of the properties. We cannot update the value of any property. For example, suppose here we have the property job title, and we don't want to update this job title every time. So here within interface, we can use the read-only keyword. So before this property or before this variable, specify keyword read-only, and now you can't update the values of job title. So here if you go specify user dot job title and assign a new value, and let's say he is a developer, and you can see it shows error cannot assign to job title because it is a read-only property. And if you do not sure, let's try to execute this, and you can see in the console cannot assign to job title because it is a read-only property. So I hope that you understand how to use this read-only, and remember you can specify read-only property for any of the property that we have defined within the interface like this. And you can see all of this showing error when we try to assign a new value. So this is how you can use the read-only keyword. Moving next, let's understand the important concept in TypeScript called nullable types. And these nullable types refer to the types that can hold a value of a null or undefined in addition to the expected type. In TypeScript, you can allow a variable or parameter to accept null or undefined explicitly. Whenever you see a null or undefined in TypeScript, just think it represents absence of value, but they have distinct meaning and use cases. First, let's understand undefined meaning and its use cases. So undefined means absence of value or an uninitialized state, and it is a default value for variable that have been declared but not assigned any value. Also, it is written by function that don't explicitly return a value. So we can create a variable a, and here you can see I have not assigned any value to this. So according to this statement, default value for variable that have been declared but not assigned any value, that variable is a undefined. If you are not sure, let's try to print the value of the a and see what happens. And now execute this. And before executing this, let's go up and comment out these lines. So scroll down and comment out these, then come back, execute this, scroll down. You can see a is a undefined. So these lines satisfy this statement. Now next statement is a whenever we define a function and we do not provide any return value, then that function return undefined. So here let's create a function, and the function name is a do something. And simply this function will not return anything. It is not going to contain any of the code for any specific task. And now after this, let's call the function do something like this and see what happens. Comment out this line, execute this, scroll down, and we get the error. So let's again execute this, and you can see here it shows undefined. So this line of code satisfies this second statement. Remember, whenever you are not sure about the value or the value is absent, or when you want to keep uninitialized, then you need to define that variable as a undefined. Moving next, let's understand null. And this null represent intentional absence of value. Remember, it is an intentional absence of value. It is explicitly assigned to variable when you want to indicate that the variable should be empty or has no value at the moment. So let's take an example. Here I'm going to create a variable b, and explicitly I will assign a null. And then console this variable console.log and specify b like this. And before this, comment out these lines and click on this run button, scroll down, we see nothing, run this again and scroll down, and this time we can see the value of b is a null. So here we have intentionally made this variable empty, or this variable has not value at this moment. We don't want to keep any value in this variable b, so we assign the null. Here I want to mention one thing, that null and undefined is a primitive type like a string, boolean and number. For example, let's create variable u, and you can assign the type like a undefined, and this variable will be undefined. Similarly, you can create a variable x and you can assign a type null like this. So this undefined and null is a primitive type like other data type in TypeScript. Now next, I want to show how you can assign a different type to a single variable. So for example, here I'm going to create a variable name, and to this variable I'm going to assign the primitive type like a string, or specify this pipe or vertical bar. You can say it can be null also. So here this means this name variable can be string or it can be null. Similarly, you can create one more variable like a username, and you can say this username can be a string or it can be undefined. So this is how you can specify several types for a variable in TypeScript. Remember once again, this here name variable can either be string or it can be null. And similarly, this username can be string or it can be undefined. So this is all about null and undefined in TypeScript. And moving next, let's understand optional types in TypeScript. Optional types refer to the properties or function parameter that are not required. In other words, they can be left out, and when omitted, they are implicitly set to undefined. In TypeScript, you can make a parameter or property optional by adding this question mark after the name of the property or parameter. For example, here I am going to create a function greet, and this function will accept a single parameter of type string. And remember, whenever we create parameter like this, then this is called the required parameter, which means this parameter is must, and whenever we call this greet function, we must provide argument for this function. And within this function, we will check if name is provided. Then in this case, we are going to console.log the message hello, then $, curly braces, name of the person. Otherwise, if name is absent or name is not provided, in that case, we will execute or console here message hello stranger like this. And now here let's call the function greet, and you can see here we have not provided any argument to this function, but in the function parameter we have defined a name parameter, and this is the required, which means we must provide this parameter. And when we don't provide a argument to this function while calling, you can see here it is showing a red line, and when you hover on it, it says expected one argument but got 0, which means this function accept a one argument for this parameter, but we are not providing any argument in this case. Let's execute this and see what happens. And you can see here we get the error expected one arguments but got 0. And why this error appears? Because this name parameter is a required parameter. Again, it is a required. We must provide this parameter when calling the function. So let's pass the parameter and specify the name as Bobby. And now execute this. Scroll down, you can see it prints hello Bobby. But sometimes we want to make the function parameter optional, which means while calling the function, we will not provide a value to that function, then it is not going to show the error. So for that, after the parameter name, we need to specify the question mark symbol. And when we specify question mark, then this parameter becomes optional, which means while calling the function, if we not provide any kind of argument or value, then the function will not raise error. And let's execute this without passing any of the argument. Click on this and scroll down. You can see it prints hello stranger because we do not provide any kind of value. So here this condition becomes false because the name contains a undefined value, and this undefined value becomes false. So this else block is get executed. And remember, whenever you are going to create a optional parameter, always specify this question mark after the parameter name. Now here I want to show what happens when we use the required or optional parameter in a function. So after this optional parameter, I'm going to use the required parameter age of type number. And now here we need to provide the required parameter value. So in this case, I'm going to provide 30. And now let's execute this. And look, here we get the error, a required parameter cannot follow an optional parameter, which means the first parameter should be required parameter. It can't be optional parameter. So in other words, it is saying whenever you are going to use the optional or required parameter within the function, make sure your first parameter must be required parameter, and after that you can specify any number of optional parameter. So I'm going to take this age from here, and then I will make this age parameter as the first parameter of this function like this. And now here I'm going to also print and age is then $, then curly braces and age like this. Remove this comma from here. Here specify the curly braces, and now it is fine. And now this time let's provide a name as a James, and now execute this again, and you can see it prints hello James and age is 30. So here you need to remember, whenever you are going to use both optional or required parameter, always use the required parameter as the first parameter for the function, and after that you can specify any number of optional parameter. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you will get the error. Now let's see how to use this optional properties in interfaces. So here I'm going to create interface, and the interface name is person, and this interface will contain two properties, name of type string and age of type number. And now here I'm going to create a object. So let person1 and the type is person, and then equal to, here I'm going to assign name, and name is a rock, and then provide the age, and the age will be 40. Let's here print console.log person1.name and person2 1.h like this. Execute this, and you can see we get rock and 40, rock as the name and 40 as the age. So within this interface, we can make any of these properties as a optional properties by specifying question mark. So here, if we specify question mark like this, then this age is optional, which means while initializing this person object, if we do not provide this age property, then it is not going to raise error. So let's click on this run button and see what happens. And look, this time the name is rock and you can see age is undefined, which means we have not provided the age. So here this age property is optional and it is not going to show error. If you are not sure, let's remove it, and now you can see it is saying property age is missing. And let's execute this, and look, it is again showing error, property age is missing in type. So whenever these properties are required, it is necessary to pass the initial value while creating the object. And when it is optional, it is not necessary to provide the initial value or the initial data for that object. Okay guys, this is the end of this crash course, and I hope that you learned a lot of things about TypeScript. And if you are coming from a JavaScript environment, then it is good for you. And I have explained all the things required for the beginners. So at last I want to say, don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel, and thank you.